Welcome into the January 12th edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. Leafs win their third straight game, stopped the streak of the Preds. It was a 2-1 victory over Nashville. We'll break it all down and give our 3 stars of the game. And it was night one of a back-to-back, another game tonight against the Detroit Red Wings. They'll be hitting the road and going to Motown, so we'll also tee that game up for you as well. We got a little bit of an update on Auston Matthews and what his status could be going forward after missing out on tonight's game. Will it happen again in Detroit? We'll talk about it and see whether or not we believe that'll be the case. All that more coming up on today's edition of Locked On Leafs.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother from TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me, it's my co-host, Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also a writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs is a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcast from. You can also check us up on YouTube. That's Locked On Leafs on YouTube. Hit subscribe. You'll get new content directly delivered to you each and every day, Monday through Friday. It's all Leafs. It's all the time. Today's episode also is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, Dave. It was an interesting game. So Toronto with a 2-1 win over the Nashville Predators. I thought they had a really, pretty solid period. William Nylander was dancing really in that first period. But Matt Murray, I thought, stood on his head. This is I would call this a goalie duel. Both tendies, I thought, made some big time stops, keeping this a real tight, close game until the very end, until Mitch Marner was able to break through with that power play goal. But overall, I think goalie duel is probably the way that I would describe the game tonight.
Yeah, I would definitely say that goaltending, like in a game like that, where it's a 2-1, and the difference is, in this game was just that power play at the end of the game, like goaltend. And these are the types of games I think the Leafs realized they needed to start to learn how to win. And that once in a while, the goaltending was going to have to play a part in that, right? We've seen that they've tried to have to outscore the way out of troubles. The defense have kind of picked up the slack. But once in a while, your goaltender is going to have to come up when the other when his opposition is playing at a top caliber. You're not going to get any better than what Nashville got from Saros tonight. And fortunately, Matt Murray was very much equal to the task, and even better in this case.
Yeah, and he started off great. Like early on in that game, there was those few saves that he made that was like mind blowing. That it was like, oh snap! Like those are 2 big time stops. Tanner Jeannot, I thought for sure had a wide open cage there, and Murray just kind of like backwards diving, sprawling, able to make the stop. And I was down there tonight. I was down at Scotiabank Arena, and honestly, it's the loudest I think I've heard the team get in a while, the crowd get in a long time. Like Toronto always gets kind of bogged down on the crowd, but I thought tonight actually for a game, there was bits and pieces of this game where the crowd was into it, but this was one of them. Like everybody got on their hands, on their feet, and clapped their hands at Matt Murray after that sequence. And he really made a bunch more quality saves throughout the game. One of his better performances, I would say, of the season by far.
Yeah, we've seen him we've seen him have very good games, but in a game where you have a Nashville team that has played very well. Obviously, we kind of broke it down and said how much goaltending was playing a factor for that, but these aren't easy games. When a team is on a 4-game winning streak, I believe the Predators
Nashville.
This one. So, they're on a roll, and you know what? It's funny because I want to call the Leafs streak busters. They have how many streaks have we seen the Leafs broken this season? We have, the Devils was one of them. Like we've seen a lot. The Leafs have kind of they come up to the task. In a lot of these types of games where a team is on a good streak, and it's like, can Toronto come away? Especially with Auston Matthews out of lineup. Like we didn't even talked about that being a storyline because the storyline was really Matt Murray in this game.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Because I guess when we recorded yesterday's podcast, he was going to be, a game time decision. I guess he was going to take part in morning skate, and then they were going to decide after that. And so he took part in morning skate. I was down there for morning skate. We did Leafs lunch from Scotiabank Arena today. I also have kind of a funny / cool story that maybe I'll share a little bit later. Remind me to tell you my story about when I walked into Scotiabank Arena and the characters that I met today. It's kind of funny. But yeah, like I remember watching him take part in morning skate, and then everybody else left, and there were 3 guys that were remaining on the ice, 3 forwards, or 3 skaters rather. It was Jordy Ben, it was Wayne Simmons, and then it was Auston Matthews. And that told me right then and there, Auston Matthews ain't playing tonight. He's getting some extra work in, and he's not playing tonight. But what I would say is the fact that, he has an off day, a maintenance day, and then he's not playing in the game tonight, but did go out and did get some extra work and put in that extra work, that I don't believe that this is a long-term injury. I think we're starting to throw around the term load management at this point when it comes to the NHL. It's something that's starting to creep into the National Hockey League, and that potentially could be what is going on with Auston Matthews. Like, yes, he's laboring and there's something that's affecting him, but they're in a situation where they say, we don't need to play these guys 82 games a year like it used to be, back in the day. Basketball, they've clearly realized that if they only have to play 70 out of 82 games in a year, they're at their much more optimum efficiency, I suppose. And maybe that's starting to leak into hockey. I don't know if we'll see this happen quite often, but I feel like this sitting out Matthews was more of a load management type of thing. Maybe we can get into that a little bit later, because I'll be curious to see if he does play tonight in Detroit. But the game against Nashville tonight, I would say, like, his presence was probably felt, especially on the power play. I thought that the Leafs power play wasn't great. It was actually putrid for up until they scored that power play goal. And prior to that, though, they had troubles, getting established. They couldn't really get anything on goal. They weren't able to even break in over the line. Like, they were just getting clogged up in the neutral zone, turned away at the blue line, and they had to keep reloading. It was, it really didn't do anything. They didn't get many chances either. I remember the first one, I was sitting next to Mark Masters at TSN. I looked to him and I'm saying, who's on the power play here? Because it looks like Nashville's actually had more opportunities than the Toronto Maple Leafs did. Obviously, they did end up scoring the final, the game winner on the power play with Mitch Marner, but it wasn't great. And I wonder if that's, where Auston Matthews was definitely missed there. And the fact that, the team only scored 2 goals. So I guess you could say that offensively he was missed. But what I would say is I thought William Nylander was fantastic tonight in taking his place as the top line center, if you will. That guy was buzzing, especially in the first period. It seemed like the puck was just attracted to his stick the entire time. He was moving his feet. He was in every single right position he possibly could have been in. The puck was just dancing on his stick, and obviously ended up getting the assist on the opening goal from John Tavares. So I thought that William Nylander filling in for Auston Matthews, that line I thought didn't really skip a beat. They still had a lot of good scoring chances from him and Michael Bunting. Pierre Engvall was a little more silent than I thought maybe I would have liked him to be. At one point, Kerfoot ended up going up on that line. There's also instances where they loaded up with Nylander, Tavares, and Marner, which clearly ended up in that goal towards the end of the first period. But overall, I thought that the team looked good, and they had a lot of good chances. There was just Juuse Saros was matching Matt Murray's stellar goaltending performance, which is the only reason why there was only 3 goals scored in total in this hockey game. Luckily, Toronto got the extra.
Like we've seen with William Nylander especially, he is that other guy on the power play. When you look at that power play and what makes it successful is that teams kind of always gravitate towards Matthews. That allows Nylander to get a little bit more of that open, opportunity, right? And so what I loved about the game-winning goal was that the respect all the Predators players showed to William Nylander because they knew with Auston Matthews out, he's the next guy. And
Yeah.
what does Nylander do? He could have selfishly taken that shot on goal. Instead, he saw that Marner was open. Also, a very tough play to make, but he's, that's the sign of maturity I think we're seeing in Nylander's game. We've seen it countless times before where Matthews is out. Nylander is the one that naturally gets moved to center, and it's almost like
Well,
he's
we haven't typically we haven't seen Nylander get moved to center a whole lot. Typically, they'll move Tavares up, and then Kerfoot ends up moving into the middle.
Well, also when they do, like I remember when they did the super line of Tavares, Matthews, and Marner, and then it's Nylander. He usually is the guy that Keefe has put at center. We remember that in the playoffs, and it hasn't really worked out as well. But I mean, we mentioned, I don't know if we mentioned or Sheldon Keefe kind of mentioned how I think you mentioned in the Discord that Sheldon Keefe has liked what Nylander has done defensively, and that's what made him more comfortable to put him at center.
Well, he talked about so in his media availability yesterday, he had talked about the growth in William Nylander's game, and he did talk about that, and how he also wanted to give him an opportunity to maybe his game. And Willie also said my game last few games had kind of gone away from him a little bit. He wasn't playing to the consistency and to the level that he knows he can get to, and feels like there's another gear that he could get to. And Keefe agreed, I guess, and thought moving him into the middle might get him more touches and get him going. And in a game, if they want to bring Auston Matthews out, he should be the guy who's carrying the puck a little bit more on that top line, and that's why they decided to give him that. And the defensive play, to be a center in the National Hockey League, you have much more defensive responsibility than you do if you're a winger. And I'm not sure 2 years ago that we could sit here and say that we feel comfortable with Willie, in a defensive role or being the first guy on the back check. But what we've seen this season is he is willing to do that, and the buy-in is there for Nylander. So I think that moving him to the center and kind of just getting a look and seeing, all right, what can we work with? If an injury occurs, is this a possibility? I think that's what tonight was, like just kind of let's put some things together and see how things look. And if down the line some injuries occur, we've toyed with some stuff to see what works and what doesn't. I think William Nylander as a centerman could work. I think it could work should an injury occur to one of these top guys.
Yeah, no, definitely. You need to see if that can, and it might need to be a case where you need to juggle the lines a little bit here, and knowing that maybe you can trust William Nylander to play center can open up different possibilities. Now, that's just in like the most, like, I'm not calling for it to happen. We've seen it happen before. It's just good to know that there could be a potential where it does happen, and we have a bit of a track record where he can do it. And look, this might not be a one game thing. This could be the same if Auston Matthews is not able to play against the Red Wings. And who knows if it's going to go past the next game, right? That's something that has to be kind of kept in mind here.
Yeah, I think we can get to that in a little bit here. But first, why don't we take a quick break? And on the other side, we'll do our 3 stars of the game, and then we'll get into kind of the Auston Matthews chat and start teeing up Leafs and Red Wings tonight. But first, let me tell you guys about one of today's show sponsors. It's betonline.net. It's your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From pro football, you got the playoffs coming up. You got hockey, basketball, MLB will be right around the corner. We've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those at betonline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. We are hosts here at Locked On Leafs. Toronto with the 2-1 win over the Nashville Predators, now winners of 3 in a row. They're the streak stoppers, as we've coined them, as they have been putting halts to a lot of streaks so far this season. And the Preds came in on a 4-game heater, and no more. They now leave with 0 points as the Leafs were able to score late on the power play. Mitch Marner scored it, and they ended up with a 2-1 win. So let's get to our 3 stars from tonight's victory. Your third star, Dave.
I'm going to cheat a little bit here.
Oh.
And I have to. I don't think I've ever done this before. I don't think we've ever done this before.
So I just want to say that I didn't cheat today, and you're the only one cheating. I just need to make that be known that I actually have 3 separate people slotted in my first, second, third star.
Cheating.
What?
That's not even why I'm cheating.
Oh, okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Because once in a while you have to recognize when someone on the other side has a good performance. And I have to give Juuse Saros a shout out here because that game, while it was a 2-1 win for the Leafs, should not have been a 2-1 win for the Leafs.
No.
Like, as good as Matt Murray was, Juuse Saros was just fantastic. Like, the saves he made in this game, just even go back and look at the highlights if you didn't watch the full game. There were chance after chance, guys breaking in alone on that, tips, just anything you could throw. This, like, Juuse Saros was a brick wall, and the only reason why he wasn't able to pick up the win tonight was because he is not 7 feet tall and could not reach. Like, he still had a somewhat of a chance to get Marner's shot there if he had maybe a couple of extra seconds.
Yeah, he's barely 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
So, he's the only one kind of bucking the trend there when it comes to goaltenders. Yeah, the Maple Leafs had 19 slot shots tonight on net. They had 11 scoring chances off the cycle, 7 scoring chances off the rush, and had 6 odd man rushes tonight. So, the Juuse Saros had to come up big a couple of times throughout this game for sure. So, we'll let it slide. He certainly deserves some love though. I'm giving my third star to Mitch Marner. I know that he technically scored the game-winning goal, and for whatever reason, he was given the first star in the building as well. I'm not sure if he was also given the first star on the broadcast.
It was Matt Murray that got first star.
So in the building, they gave it to Mitch Marner, and I was like, no chance. Like, I'm sorry. I know he scored the game winner, but like we all know who the first star of the game was for the Maple Leafs that night. But Mitch Marner still like had a pretty good game. I mean, he scored the game-winning goal, and he was buzzing out there all over the place. So, I think that he at least needs to be acknowledged for the game that he had a couple of really good opportunities, and then finally, like I said, breaking through on the power play after, some very meh power plays. When you look at the underlying numbers, he had the best Corsi for the entire team at 78%. He had 18 shot attempts for, only 5 shot attempts against while he was out there on the ice. Outshot his opponents 12-2 while he was out there on the ice. And all these numbers are at 5-on-5. So not even including the power play, with a 60% expected goal rating while out there on the ice with 4 high danger chances. So, Mitch Marner was a guy who was buzzing out there tonight. So I want to give, obviously he deserves some love also to the game winner, but he's going to be my third star for tonight.
No, it's very, he was all over the ice there in this game. So yeah, he didn't have as big of a presence as I felt William Nylander had.
Mm-hmm.
Nylander had the tougher assignment because he had to not only change from wing to center, but he also had to do it with line mates that don't equal to what Mitch Marner had. So that's why I had William Nylander as my second star for that reason. But I mean, Mitch Marner, like that goal he scored, it also tied him for the record with franchise record with Daryl Sittler. So that also deserves a shout
for what was the record?
The record was for consecutive
home games with a point.
Yeah, home games with a point.
Okay, I did see that record. I didn't know it was tied with Sittler, but I did know that he had tied a record tonight. But I also have William Nylander as my second player. He had 2 apples on the evening for William Nylander, and I believe he had a team high in expected goals tonight of 69%. Yes, 69.93% expected goals. Was on the ice for 13 scoring chances, on the ice for 7 high danger scoring chances tonight. So he was electric though. Like that first period, I swear to God, you looked at him and you said, "How is this guy not going to the All-Star game?" Like this William Nylander has a gear when he's on. Like this dude is legitimately a top line superstar talent. And we saw that in the first. It didn't result in any goals, but he had made so many good he had so many good looks, and he was setting guys up, and the puck always found its way back on his stick. He was skating back checking hard. He was forechecking. He had a good active stick to take pucks away. He's just a real solid, sound player, and I hope he can continue playing this way because, I mean, it's tough to beat this team when they have so many guys playing at an elite level. 17 shots he was on the ice for tonight for the Maple Leafs. Not shot attempts, but actual shots, which obviously led the entire team. So, William Nylander for me definitely gets a star. But the first star has to go to the goaltender, Matt Murray, because he was just unbelievable tonight and made some real 5-star saves.
Oh yeah, I mean the Dominic Hasek-esque save that he made, like that you mentioned earlier, but just a lot of chances that there was that period where people were just like, is this Leafs goaltending starting to fizzle out a little bit here? Now it still feels a bit of a roller coaster in a way. Like we haven't seen that level of consistency after we just went through this period where they were. Both him and Samsonov went through that tough stretch, but these are the kinds of games that you can feel good about when games start to get tougher. And this is what Matt Murray, I think, was supposed to be when the Ottawa Senators traded for him, and then that didn't work out. So now I feel like there's a level of comfort he feels that in Toronto that maybe he just never had in Ottawa, and maybe having that 1-2 punch with Samsonov really helps as well because he's not being asked to carry too much of a load. But I can't really say anything but good things for Matt Murray right now. Like it's I know he went through a tough spell, but he's found a way to battle through it, and that's all you can ask for when your goaltender is going through those stretches. All I care about is just find a way to get those wins. And now he's not only getting the wins, he's helping them kind of steal games as well.
Yeah, a 970 save percentage for Matt Murray tonight.
It's pretty good.
Not too shabby. Allowed 1 goal. He faced 12 high danger shots tonight and stopped 11 of the 12. So the only one was the one, obviously, the Phil Forsberg goal, which is just, it's just a nice play by Phil Forsberg, to be honest with you. But outside of that, stopped everything else that was sent his way. And there was a lot of rubber sent his way tonight. Ended up making 32 of 33 saves. So, he was busy tonight, busy often, and he made some big time stops, not only in the first period, but even the third period. After they had scored the go-ahead goal, he had to make that big scramble save in front and try and find that puck to hold on to it in a bit of a scramble with a bunch of guys in and around his crease. And they got that whistle. But, a couple weeks ago, they were allowing those response goals right after they had just taken the lead and which would kill their momentum. And that was kind of going through my head, but nope, never came. I was able to lock it down, got the save at the right time, and they were able to obviously run away with the victory there. All right, so those are our 3 stars for tonight's game. We'll take one more quick break. When we get back, we'll tee up the Leafs and Red Wings. That'll be taking place tonight. It's a back-to-back, I guess. I guess by the time you're listening to this game, it'll be tonight. or by the time you listen to this podcast, it'll be tonight. So we'll get to that in just a moment. Also, we'll re-engage on the Matthews conversation because I'm curious to see where you're at on whether or not you think he will or whether you think he should play tonight. And if not, I guess we didn't really talk about Bobby McMahon and his debut as well. So we'll do that on the other side too. But first, Dave, how about a word from one of our show sponsors?
Yep, and that is Built Bar. So if you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try a Built Bar. We just went through the holidays, everyone, and I know that everyone is now trying to get into kind of a reset, right? 2023, let's get healthier. Let's try to have a healthier mindset. Well, Built Bar will definitely help you with that because not only is it healthy, it is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious, you won't think they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they are covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. I have had the cookie dough. I've tried many different Built Bar flavors. That's what I love about Built Bars. They have a wide selection of flavors. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better than that is they are healthy because they only have 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, they've been talking about trying to get, we've been talking about getting Built Bars online at built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bar. You can even pick up a 4-box of chocolate, of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. Also, if you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with hit flavors like brownie batter and churro. Don't worry, you can thank me later. Make sure you go over to built.com if you want to go and order online and use the promo code LOCK15. Get 15% off your next order. That is LOCK15. Get 15% off your next order at built.com.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. We got the Maple Leafs with night 2 of back-to-back tonight, taking on the Detroit Red Wings. They played each other pretty recently. Played each other last weekend, and Toronto came away victorious, a 4-1 win. Matt Murray Samsonov had that start, and he'll get the start again tomorrow against the Detroit Red Wings. Toronto's fared pretty well against the Red Wings so far this season. They're 2-0. They've outscored them 8-3 in those 2 games, but they've also won 5 straight meetings in Detroit, Dave. So all things point to it should be a good game for the Maple Leafs. They should be able to win this one. And I mean, on paper, they should still, even if Matthews doesn't play, they should still be able to win this game. They are still the better team on paper, in my opinion. But let's talk about Auston Matthews because he missed the game against the Nashville Predators. And what Sheldon Keefe had said in his availability before the game was, he'd been dealing with something for quite some time. Wasn't really, he took a quick twirl around for skate, and we realized, he's not going to play. It's still an undisclosed injury. We don't know exactly what it is. There's some speculation on what it could potentially be, but there's no concrete fact or information on it. That being said, I wonder if, again, as I had noted earlier in the pod, if this is just a matter of kind of load management and, similar to what I believe the team's doing with TJ Brody, where, they say you got a nick and a bruise, you want to get healed up. Cool. We'll give you the week because we've got the depth and we believe that we can kind of get through it. We've afforded ourselves that with, the fact that we're so far ahead in the standings. We kind of already know how things are going to play out regardless. I think the same thing is happening with Auston Matthews potentially. They're like, if you need a game or two, we'll give you a game or two if that'll kind of help heal up whatever ailment you have. And then, we'll get it going for the second half of the season. But I also wonder if that's what's impaired him on his goal scoring. Like if this truly is dating back, because they said he'd been dealing with it for a while. If this dates back to the Dallas game where he took some shots to the ribs and the oblique, and like this whole area was kind of not feeling great for Auston Matthews after that game. And there was highly speculation that he was really feeling the after effects afterward. Could it have lingered this long? I don't know, potentially. And if that's the case, could that have impacted, his shot, which he's just been a little off the mark all year? Like last year, he was just pinpoint accurate. This year, little off the mark. And I wonder if this might have something to do with it. So the team's just kind of saying, hey, if you need a couple of games, if the last time they played was Sunday, if they sit there and say it's fine, you want to not play Wednesday, Thursday, come back and play the Boston game on Saturday. We'll give you basically an entire week off, 6 days off, and then come back for that big game. Go ahead. We can afford that. That's almost how I'm currently reading the situation. I don't think it's a major injury or a big deal, just a little bump and bruise, and they're hoping that if he can rest it for a few days, few games, then maybe he'll be, have a little bit better of a second half, more productive second half than first half.
Yeah, like I'm fine if he's missing 1, maybe 2 games because, this is just something that they feel like he needs to do to get himself right. Got no problem with that. When it gets to like 3, 4 games, that's where you're kind of saying this is a little more serious than I think maybe it's being led on. But it doesn't sound like that. Like I was watching clips from him at practice. He didn't look like a player who was dealing with anything serious. He looked like that.
I was there. I was watching him with my own eyes. For sure, he looked completely normal. Like if I hadn't known that there was a possibility that he wasn't playing, I would have thought that he was going to play today based on how he looked at practice. He wasn't ginger, nothing. And then when I saw him stay out there with the presumed scratches for tonight, then I kind of put 2 and 2 together and thought, oh, maybe he's not going to play after all. So, I'll be curious to see though if he plays tonight. I mean, if you're not going to play him against Nashville at home, I mean, there's probably no sense in playing him against Detroit the next night on the road, right? You might as well give him both nights off, re-energize yourself. Hopefully, you can heal up whatever ailments you got, and we'll see you in Boston on Saturday for a big game against the Bruins.
Yeah, exactly. Right, like that game, the game against the Bruins is far more important considering how close. I mean, the Leafs are going to try to catch them in the stands. I mean, they have to. You kind of feel like that's a goal, an attainable goal still at this point. So, yeah, if back-to-back situation, maybe they feel like just one game is enough. But, I mean, at this point, you've given them this game off. You give them another one off. You get the off day Friday. Then it almost pretty much clears up a perfect opportunity for him to get back against Boston. Like I would rather him at his best against Boston than him coming back against Detroit and there's still some sort of iffy about whether he should be playing, right? I don't want there should be no iffy area. He's not probably be 100%, but I'd rather not have him be 60%. Let's try to get him closer to that one.
So it appears that Bobby McMahon is going to be traveling with the team on the road trip. He was the player who was called up yesterday and got into his first NHL game today. So stick taps to Bobby McMahon. But I thought that he played well. Like he played not technically in place of Auston Matthews, but he was the other forward who came in when they reshuffled lines. So, somewhat the Matthews replacement. But I actually thought he played rather well in the game against Nashville. I thought that, he made some smart plays. He was pretty simple. I thought that he was well detailed, a little chip and chase action. He has some really good speed, on the forecheck. And I thought he created a couple of turnovers. He had one nice look, I thought. So I thought he was a decent little fourth line player. And if you're bringing him back on the road trip in Detroit tomorrow, you might as well play him, right? Give Matthews the night off and get one more look at this kid and see what he's all about. It's funny, I don't know if you heard. So it's the dad's trip that they're going on for this road trip, and Bobby McMahon's father, Cecil McMahon, has been asked to join them. So because he's now with the team, right? So like, hey, so they flew into Toronto to watch their son play in his first NHL hockey game. They're from Alberta, and he gets there, and they're like, well, Mom, you can go back to Alberta, but we're going to take Papa McMahon because we're now on the father's trip and he's a part of the team, which means his father's also part of this family. And we're going on a roadie, which is hilarious because he's like, I packed for one day. It's like, well, your boy's making big league cash now on an NHL salary. So I think he could buy a couple new outfits for, a little vacay to Detroit and Boston.
I think the Leafs can also maybe help him out with some Leafs gear that's kind of hanging around. I think his dad will be quite all right, over the next few days.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I would imagine that would be the case. That'd be a fun trip to be a part of, eh? The dad's trip. You got all the all the players and the young dudes, and then you got all the old guys with all the dads kind of doing their thing. I just imagine like which one of their fathers just gets super rowdy and just becomes like. Do you remember? Were you a big Friends fan?
Yes.
So do you remember? Why am I forgetting his name? Mustache. Guy who dated Monica. Magnum PI. What's his name?
Yeah, the eye doctor.
Yeah, I can't believe that I'm forgetting his name.
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck. Yes, thank you, Tom Selleck. It reminds me if there's gonna be like some sort of scene. Remember when Joey and Chandler like become best friends with Tom Selleck, and then he's like, "You're much cooler than our dads," and then he's like, "Oh, you look at me as a cool father." Like, I wonder which one of those fathers is gonna be like the cool dad, where Marner or Kerfoot or one of these guys or Matthews, Nylander, I don't know, somebody kind of hangs out with them and. It's like, oh, you're much cooler than my dad, and just kind of goes hard or goes and has a good time. That'll be interesting.
Mom's trip. They used to do the moms. I don't know. They probably might still do a mom's trip. I know they kind of alternate, but
don't they usually do that? Well, I guess it wouldn't. Yeah, I was gonna say do that around Mother's Day, but I mean you would have to be in the playoffs deeply for that to happen. So
another road trip, I remember that, and I remember Mitch Marner's mother being kind of she would be that type of, like when you're talking about like the one that's kind of center of attention. She was definitely one of those with her. I think when she was doing the floss dance move when I think it was when Mitch scored.
Nice.
So maybe the Marner family will come up big on that one.
Very nice. Yeah, Ilya Samsonov gonna get the start tonight after Murray started in the game against Nashville. So, yeah, Toronto, just pretty much do the exact same thing that they did the other night. Came away with a 4-1 win. I would say copy-paste the game plan, and away you go. Give me a quick prediction. What do you think happens tonight?
Back-to-back. I mean, Leafs are fantastic on back-to-back, so I'm predicting a Leafs win. I'm going to go somewhere like a 5-2. 5-2 win.
5-2. I'm going to go back-to-back 4-1 victories. They won 4-1 the other night in Toronto. I think they win 4-1 again here in Motown. That's going to be my prediction. And I think Bobby McMahon will play, and Bobby McMahon will score his first goal in the National Hockey League. That is my prediction.
Interesting.
Yes. I have to tell you the story.
Oh, yes. I want to hear the story.
So I met 3 individuals today. 3 individuals, part of the Leafs brass, all at separate times, too. Funny enough. So because I was at Scotiabank Arena doing Leafs lunch today, I get to go for morning skate and that to walk through Scotiabank Arena and go up the media elevator and into the media gondola where we do our show. So as I'm walking through Scotiabank, I see this other gentleman walking towards me, and he looked kind of familiar. I'm like, I know this person, but I don't know who he is. But he's eyeballing me too. We're looking at each other, and then he extends his hand out to shake my hand, and he says, "Al's brother, how's it going?" And right away, I'm like, okay, he clearly knows who I am. So I embarrassingly didn't say, like, who are you? I just shook his hand and said, oh, I'm doing good. How are things with you? And then, it was very much like a quick shake. How's it going? Just a quick stop and chat. And then we were going about our ways. And then as he's shaking my hand, he's like, oh, good. Brandon Pridham. And then keeps walking. And then I went my own separate ways. So had a quick stop and chat, I guess, and Brandon Pridham, I guess, introduced himself to me, which I thought was kind of cool. Just randomly, because you know what it is, like, he's somebody who I always we talk about him a lot, right? Being like this team's capologist, he's technically the assistant general manager of the team, but he doesn't really get a lot of FaceTime and airtime.
I don't even think I've ever seen him do an interview.
Which is why I was looking at him and I'm like, I don't know if I know you, but you're looking at me as if I should know you because you know who I am. And I felt really bad afterwards that I didn't recognize him. But then afterwards, I shook hands and went about our ways. And I kind of turned around and I told him, "You're doing a good job with the cap, by the way." And he got a little chuckle and then kind of kept going his way, and I went my way. And then on my way out of the building, I also ran into Kyle Dubas and just gave him a quick little head nod. Hey, how's it going? As we did just kind of pass by each other and a little acknowledgement to one another. And then I was at the game tonight and up in the press box, Jason Spezza was there and he walked past and a little head nod of acknowledgement with Spezza as well. So I was running into Maple Leafs front office members left, right, and center today. It was crazy.
Today, we joked about it on the Discord that hey, maybe Auston Matthews will hang out with you up in the gondola there, but looks like they're all gonna go find you. Like you're not seeking them out; they're seeking you out when you're in the building.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, man. I was just running into these guys left, right, and center, but. Yeah, that's what happens when you're around the building. They're around. They're around. They know what's going on. They're a hardworking bunch who are always at the rink. So, hopefully they can put together and build a team that can deliver a championship to this club. But I think they're on the right track. I like what's going on with this club right now. I really, really do. I think this is a Stanley Cup contending team. And, they started off the second half of the season with a victory against Nashville, and hopefully they can get a victory in game number 43 against the Red Wings tonight. But that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasts and platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Nuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. Leave a like and a comment down on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode for you guys. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.